It's Friday, February 20th, and we have the second day of our big severe weather system that's moving kind of west to east. It was mostly seen with our enhanced risk in Illinois and Indiana yesterday, but now we're actually seeing a marginal risk in parts of the southeastern US. The Storm Prediction Center only has this for hail at the moment, and this probably wouldn't even be that large of hail, maybe getting close to the 1.25 inch size range. I also wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of isolated areas where we do see damaging gusts, but I am going to agree with the Storm Prediction Center that that risk is going to be very low, along with the risk of tornadoes. I also think that risk is going to be essentially close to zero in this area. Then, of course, we just have a larger area where we could see some general thunderstorm activity than a little isolated one back here where New Mexico and Colorado meet on their border. And we're going to start by looking at our main risk area for severe weather. First, we're going to see kind of this cold front, which is going to play a big role in today's system, move through in the very probably early morning hours. This would be around 3 a.m. through our main risk area. And what this is going to do, this is going to eat up a lot of the ingredients, and also behind the cold front, there's going to be not much moisture and essentially zero instability. And what's going to happen is that as our cold front stalls, it's actually going to start vecting back up towards the north, almost acting as a pseudo warm front, if you will. We'll see even these little blotch of storms right here down in parts of Florida, and then also southern Georgia is going to start moving back up to the north. And at this point, probably around when we start seeing some low-level jet and greater convergence up here, is when we could potentially see that severe weather threat start. I think this would likely begin getting to the stages where it has the highest chance of producing severe weather, probably in the late afternoon to evening hours. At this point, we're having the low-level jet kick in, better convergence, better flow altogether, and these storms will really start to be able to organize and cluster. Maybe we see some isolated damaging gusts with this. I still think probably the main threat is going to be some small hail. And then even this little blotch down here, the ingredients right here are not bad at all. Pretty good convergence also in this area. Would not be surprised to see some stronger storms out of southern Alabama, northern Florida, and southern Georgia in this little cluster right here as well. And then unlike our main risk, it looks like probably the rest of the country that has just that general thunderstorm risk out here in the east is probably going to be in the morning hours as that cold front and low pressure system complex continues to move out to the east and will eventually exit off the eastern coast into the Atlantic before that low pressure system kind of starts to stall as well. And it looks like all of our weather, if you are south of New York City, is going to be done in the morning hours. Maybe things are going to stall a little bit up here in the northeast, lasting quite a bit longer. That probably means more rain is going to fall up here also, so be aware for any flood risk of any kind. But this is just going to be general thunderstorm activity. The ingredients for that, there's not going to be much instability or moisture. Maybe a couple of stronger thunderstorms with some gusty winds, but that looks like that's really going to be it for just that general thunderstorm area. And this is going to be what our jet stream is doing. And one of the main things we're going to note is how much favorable flow is going to be over our severe risk area. And that's mainly going to be the thing carrying this event. There's not going to be a whole lot of moisture. There's going to be essentially no instability at all, but our flow is going to be quite good. So that's not only going to provide ample forcing for these storms to continue and sustain, it's also going to provide some really favorable deep layer shear for those stronger updrafts to also kind of do the same thing, sustain like that. Also up here, we see a really strong ejection of our trough right up near our closed low. And this is going to bring greater forcing to these storms. And one of the reasons why, even though we don't really have any super good ingredients, nearly not much moisture at all, not even close to what we'd want to see, not much instability, there's still a chance for these storms to be somewhat strong up here, but nothing severe is expected. And looking back at just our general map of where we could see those thunderstorms today, something to note is that whatever's closer to the low pressure system, so specifically this area, is going to be stronger than something down in Tennessee moving into parts of North Carolina. And something else to note is that we're actually going to see a decent bit of snowfall with this system today. And this is probably going to come in the late afternoon hours up here in the Northeast. We're going to see a really defined arc actually up here, which kind of starts in Nebraska and goes all the way up towards Canada. And then we're also seeing a decent bit up here in the Northeast. So upstate New York, Connecticut, Vermont, those types of areas, even a isolated potential for close to 10 inches of snow. And then, of course, out here in parts of the Southwest Four Corner states and Sierra Nevada range, there's also going to be some isolated areas receiving close to 10 inches of snow as well. So this is a sounding that we're seeing from our main risk area, and a couple of things we're going to notice immediately. Our thermodynamics are not really favorable for severe weather at all. We're seeing we have really low dew points, really low temperatures, but something that is going to be favorable, like many of our setups in the past couple of days, is going to be the shear. You can see that our deep layer shear specifically is going to be really close to being nearly as much as you can really ask for, close to 80 knots. This is going to be the main driver and why those updrafts are going to be stronger and why that hail risk is going to have the potential to be realized, even though we have essentially zero instability. Another thing to note is because we do have drier levels closer to the ground, these storms are going to be a little bit more elevated, and because our relative humidity is going to be quite a bit lower in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and our shear parameters are really solid. That's why there is that baby chance for maybe a couple of isolated severe gusts. But I think because our thermodynamics are so poor and our instability is really bad also, it's going to be really hard for a storm to actually produce any severe gust. Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of stronger gusting storms that don't reach that severe potential, but I would actually be decently surprised if we did see some severe storms that were warned for winds and not hail. Now, something to note about an area which actually isn't currently severe, kind of highlighted as a marginal risk by the Storm Prediction Center. This is that one little line in parts of northern Florida, southern Alabama, and southern Georgia. I think the ingredients for this one are going to be much more favorable than what is currently highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center. We're going to see a couple of things immediately. Our moisture is going to be much better. High 60s dew points and close to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, our instability close to around 500 and then close to 53 Cape, which could actually be higher in a couple of select areas. Then again, our shear parameters are really good, specifically in the deep layers. We have 70 knots of deep layer shear, a nice elongation on our photograph. And then even our low level shear isn't that bad, about 20 knots of shear in only the first kilometer of the atmosphere, and then close to 100 surface helicity. I think these storms actually could have potential to produce severe risk, and that would mostly be for damaging winds and hail. Although with this, it wouldn't shock me to see maybe one of these go tornado warned. I think the potential for that is going to be pretty low and actually kind of close to zero. And the main risk with this are going to be damaging winds and hail. Even if we do get those, this is more hypothetical. I do think this is going to be the more favorable of the two risk areas, and I definitely think we're going to see some strong thunderstorms out of this region at least.